Today we're going to talk about different loading strategies, what we call front loading and back loading strategies for contest prep, right? So now think about it, you are on the last week prior to your contest, right? What's the perfect goal of contest? You want to suck all the water into the muscle as much as you can and have paper thin skin, right? Where your muscles are essentially pushing up against that skin. Veins popping all over the place. You look shredded, hard, dialed in, everything's on point, right? So one of the ways to do that is what we call a backloading strategy approach. What's the point of it? Well, way back in like the 60s in research, okay, there was some researchers, there are Swedish researchers, and they actually played with depletion and loading strategies, okay? And what these researchers essentially found was that when you essentially, and it's called the Borg loading approach, when you had these individuals, what they did was they were endurance athletes. And this is the only research that's really been done on this is on endurance athletes. No one's done any research on bodybuilders, which we really should do. But basically what they did was they depleted them, they had them do a lot of cardio, and they gave them almost no carbs for like 3 days. So they completely depleted them for 3 days. And then they freaking loaded them up on carbs, 500, 600, 700, 800 gram carb days for like 3 days. What they found was if this is your normal full carbohydrate loads in your muscle, that after they depleted, it went down and then it went up and super compensated. So it was higher than it was before. Remember, for every gram of carb that you store in your muscle, you store about 3 grams of water. So basically the thought is that for them it was for performance. I want to run longer. Bodybuilders don't care about that. They want to get on stage and have thick, full muscles, right? So the thought is, what I'm going to do is deplete, super compensate, draw all the water into the cell, and I have a full muscle, okay? And you know sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. So the strategy is I completely deplete for about 3 days, do really high rep, not a lot of eccentric work, okay? And I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm doing a lot of high rep concentric work that's basically depleting the muscle, right? A lot of dumbbell flies, leg extensions maybe for the first couple days, and you're just depleting. Not muscle damaging exercise. It's very important you don't do muscle damaging exercise because muscle damage causes me to be insulin resistant, okay? And if I'm insulin resistant, when I carb load, I actually won't store the carbohydrates and I will spill over, okay? So in essence, what we're doing is we're depleting with more of a pumping high repetition method, depleting the muscle, low carbs, and then basically Thursday, Friday, I go crazy. Maybe you're on 500. Some athletes have 1,000 grams of carbohydrates and they come in full, okay, super compensated, right? Now, can that work? Absolutely. Can it actually make you spill over? 100%, right? You can basically spill over to where essentially your body's like, whoa, can't handle that many carbohydrates. A lot of your blood glucose raises, and basically I end up storing a lot of water, okay? Because there's a number of reasons why that's the case. Maybe I end up gaining a thin layer of fat, okay? Why does that occur? Number of reasons. Number one is the bodybuilder during the 3-4 days of depletion, we're doing a lot of muscle damaging exercise, causing them to be insulin resistant. Carbohydrates hung around the muscle, didn't go into the muscle, and because of that, they ended up storing fat. 2, insulin itself can make us hold water, and the reason being is that insulin causes us to not excrete sodium, and sodium's on the outside of the muscle. That's extracellular, and so you have a thin layer of fluid around the muscle and not in the muscle, and that actually can cause you to not look as shredded on stage. So what can cause that? You know, again, maybe if you had too much sodium on those final days, you weren't counting your sodium. Also, people who eat poor diets in the off season are not as insulin sensitive in the muscle, and so they'll have a thin layer of fluid around the muscle. Even if you're like, stay lean, they're so insulin resistant that they can't use insulin as well, so they have a thin layer of fluid around the muscle. Now, so how can we overcome this? One, I was talking to Paul earlier, he's done a lot of contests. You can practice. Make sure you know your body. Practice in the off season when you do low carb days and you deplete. What carbs do you respond well to? How many can you take in before you spill over? Really learn your body multiple times in the off season so you know exactly how you respond. Okay, that's number one. Don't just do this strategy all at once. It can be chaotic. Now, there is a more conservative approach, which is called front loading. Front loading, you might start off at the beginning of the week with maybe 300 grams of carbs day one, then you go 200 on maybe Tuesday, maybe 100 on Wednesday, and then you go into Thursday, you're a little depleted, but not super depleted. Look how your body looks. Look in the mirror, okay? If it's full, well, maybe you're just upping your carbs to 150, okay? Or you're maintaining. And then on Friday, maybe you up it to 150, 200 and see how you fill out, okay? But if you're kind of flat on Thursday, again, maybe bump up to 200. And if on Friday you look great, maintain, okay? But if you're on Thursday and you look kind of flat and you up into 200, maybe you feel a little, you haven't spilled over, you look fine. Maybe on Friday you go up to 250, 300, okay? The benefit of this approach is, no, you might not hit as high a note as you would if you did basically the carbohydrate backloading where you deplete drastically at the beginning and then load it at the end, but you also have less of a probability of spilling over. So you got to ask yourself, what do you want on a contest? Do you want more surety and make sure you're coming in really good, or do you want to take a chance that you spill over? Remember, it took you months to prep for this contest. If you want to take a more conservative approach, I would recommend basically trying the carbohydrate front loading, okay? So let's summarize this up, okay? Two approaches. There's a backloading approach. You deplete a lot. You do really high reps, not muscle damaging, and then you load Thursday, Friday, maybe Saturday morning. The problem with that is that you may actually spill over. In order to avoid that, make sure you practice in the off season with exactly how many carbohydrates you can take on that loading approach, okay? Also make sure you're not doing a lot of muscle damaging exercise. If it just doesn't work for you at all, try more of a front loading approach. Again, start with 300-400 grams of carbs on Monday, lower to 200 Tuesday, maybe 100 on Wednesday. See how you look on Thursday. If you're not too depleted, maybe you just hold it. Maybe you just up it by 50 and then up to 200 on actually Friday. If you look depleted on Thursday, up it to 200. If you're great on Friday, maintain it. If you still need a little more fullness, bump it up to 300. Go into the contest with more surety. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next time.